Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to be talking about which Doctor do you think is the most let down by their era? Where their era doesn't live up to what it should have, or it doesn't live up to how good the Doctor is. Now this is really a two-point thing. First off, you have to look at, does this mean the Doctor as a character, or does this mean the actor playing the Doctor? Because those are very much two different things. I think more so I mean the actor playing the Doctor, but you can also look at it from the viewpoint of the Doctor as a character. But which Doctor really, to put it bluntly, kind of got screwed over by their era? So what we're going to do is, we're going to talk about a few of the different options here, and then I'm going to talk about the one I think is the easy, clear winner here. Now, the first two some people might jump to. Let's look at those first. Some people might immediately think Sylvester McCoy, because some people, his era sometimes has a bad reputation. Some people who don't know better, I think they think the whole McCoy era is Time and the Ronnie, and that's very much not true. I definitely don't think it's the 7th Doctor or Sylvester McCoy, because I do consider his era to be the most underrated era in all of Doctor Who. Because his era is actually really good. There's only 2 of his stories I don't really care for, and that's Delta and the Bannerman and Greatest Show in the Galaxy, which I know Greatest Show is actually a very popular one. I've only seen it once. I really need to give it a rewatch. I think all of his other stories are varying degrees of good to great to amazing. Even season 24, in my opinion, is very underrated. It's actually, despite being filmed in this kind of overlit, happy style that's used for, you guys know what I mean if you've seen 24. The way it's filmed has more of a lighthearted look than like season 22 and 23, which were tonally darker. However, when you look at the subject matter and the stories of season 24, you realize just how dark they are. I mean, look at all the dark things that goes on in those seasons. You have body possession, you have cannibalism, you have a dude's face melting off, you have slavery, you have a guy selling his crew into slavery and having their minds wiped. You have an entire busload of people just dying. You have a lot of people dying, actually. So season 24 has some dark stuff going on in it, make no bones about it. And then you have seasons 25 and 26, which I think a lot of us classic Who fans know are great seasons with good stuff in them. So I don't feel like Sylvester McCoy was ill-served by his era at all. At all. The next one people might go to is the 6th Doctor, Colin Baker. And I disagree with that too. One, Colin to me isn't one of my favorite Doctors. The 6th Doctor is kind of low on my list. I don't think he's bad, but he is kind of low on my ranking Doctors list. And there are times for me when Colin as an actor is a little over the top, a little too theatrical in places, which I've talked about on the channel before. But his era, actually, especially season 22, isn't bad. Season 22 is actually a very good season. It's very underrated. I finally got to see all of it for the first time when the box set came out. I'd only seen 3 of the episodes before that, or 3 of the stories. And it had been a while since I saw those, because I own none of season 22 on DVD. And it's a huge disservice to people who skip his era, especially this season. Season 22, all of the stories are good. Even Time Lash with the updated effects, if nothing else, just for Paul Darrow, is great. Or at least good. I don't know if great's the right word. But it's good. It's perfectly watchable. And so season 22 is good. Season 23, I will admit, is the weakest season in Classic Who for me. However, I still think it's fine. I like 3 of the 4 stories in it. I feel like his era doesn't let him down at all. Maybe all of the turmoil that was going on behind the scenes, but not his era specifically. And of course, none of the Classic Who eras before that, I really think, let down their Doctors. I think the Hartnell era is great. I think the Troughton era is great. They both serve their Doctors well. I mean, the Troughton era suffers from some of the episodes being missing, but I'm not judging it by that. I'm judging it by the quality of the stories themselves, and they're fine. And of course, we know the Pertwee era and Tom Baker's eras are phenomenal. So looking at modern Doctors, Immediately, we know we're not going to talk about 9 or 10. Their eras are great. They're kind of the second golden age of Doctor Who. Now, some people might say Whittaker, but not really, because I don't consider Whittaker's Doctor that good. I mean, she's my least favorite Doctor. She has moments, and the same thing with Whittaker. I think Whittaker, as an actress herself, is fine, but as for playing the Doctor, is the weakest actor to play the character. Just because it's very obvious she didn't do any research for it beforehand, and it really took her a while to settle into the role. Now, she has moments where she shines. She really does. She even has a handful of episodes where she's good, mostly good throughout the episodes. But even though her era is not that good, I don't really feel like it's letting her Doctor down so much. Because a lot of people are like, it's not Whittaker's fault, it's just the writing. Yes, the writing is part of the problem. Let's be clear, the writing is part of the problem. However, Whittaker's Doctor, to me, even with good writing, was still going to have problems. Because I never felt like Jodie fit the part. I always felt she was miscast from just even a few episodes into Series 11. And again, while she got better in the role, there was only on occasion I felt like she was really hitting her stride with it. So I don't really feel like her era let her down so much. The writing did let her down some, but not as much as the one I would pick for the number 1 choice. Now you might think Matt Smith, because his era does kind of fall off a cliff. But one, I like Series 7B a lot. I do. I think Series 7B is really good. It's very underrated. About the only story I don't like in it is Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. I think the rest of them are varying degrees of good. Now, Series 6 has issues. It has some good episodes in it, some great ideas. They don't really work out. And it's definitely where the show started to decline in quality. Series 7A, half and half. Series 5 is his best, though. In Series 5, Matt shines really well. But I still don't think he's the most, while I think he is let down by his era, I don't think he's the most let down. No, for me, the clear and easy winner is Peter Capaldi. Peter Capaldi is just very ill-served by his era, which is something, I had this video idea in my head for several days now, and it was just when I was reading one of my subscribers, one of my patrons actually, Colin Coney. He mentioned this too when we were in the face-off video comparing Series 10 to Season 10. He mentioned how ill-served Peter Capaldi is by his era. And that was the exact word I wish I'd come up with when I was when I was running it through my head. Because let down is the word I use. Which one is most let down by his era? And ill-served is a great word, a great term to use as well. Peter Capaldi really gets screwed by his era. He is a great Doctor. Now, his Doctor is more in the middle of my list just because his style of Doctor isn't the type I prefer. I prefer like Patrick Troughton and Tom Baker and more of that style. Those are my Doctors. Though I do love John Pertwee a lot too. And Series 10 Capaldi does remind me a lot of John Pertwee. And Series 10 Capaldi is my favorite version of the 12th Doctor. Even if it's not my favorite Capaldi series, it's my favorite version of the 12th Doctor. I really love how where he is at that point in his life. But it occurred to me when I was writing out my list for ranking the 12th Doctor era, which is, of course, is a video series I've been doing recently where I rank an entire Doctor's era from worst to best, usually as a premiere with a live chat. Now, I haven't filmed that video for the 12th Doctor as I'm recording this, but I have written out the list. And as I was writing it out, it occurred to me just how many stories in his era that I think are terrible. Like, terrible. Just awful. Bad. And a lot of them, I think, just aren't really good either. Now, he has a lot of good stories as well, but usually when I'm ranking a Doctor's era, there's only a few maybe at the bottom that I just outright think are garbage or terrible. And then you kind of move into the watchable, decent category. But with Capaldi's, there's a lot of them that are just, hard to watch bad. And here's the thing, Peter Capaldi is always great in them. Every single Doctor Who episode Peter Capaldi is in, he is nailing it. He is one of the best actors to ever play the character. Even if His Doctor is in the middle of my ranking the Doctors list just because, again, I prefer a different type of Doctor. Peter Capaldi as an actor is hands down one of the best actors to ever play the part. He is giving 150% every performance. And I really feel like his era lets him down because his entire era is a mixed bag. All three of his series are mixed bags. Series 8 is a mixed bag, Series 9 is a mixed bag that's mostly bad, and Series 10 is a mixed bag. Now, all three series have some phenomenal episodes in them. To be clear, there are episodes in the Capaldi era I love. Mummy on the Orient Express, Flatline, Heaven Sent, The Under the Lake two-parter, Thin Ice, World Enough in Time, and The Dr. Falls. He has some phenomenal pieces to showcase his era. But then you have stuff like Kill the Moon, and then you have stuff like The Caretaker and Listen, and the Girl Who Died and Lived two-parter, and the Monk trilogy, which Extremis is fine, but the other two, they're in Oxygen. You have these just garbage episodes. And I always wonder what Peter Capaldi would think of this, because we all know Peter Capaldi is a huge Doctor Who fan. He has been for a very long time, dating back to classic Who. And I always have to wonder how satisfied he was with his era. Like, if there's any living Doctor I could ever interview, like do an interview with, I would want it to be Peter Capaldi. If I could get just frank, honest answers out of him. Not the, well, I have to be nice and professional and say this. No, I don't want that. I want the actual truth. Like, I wonder if he got to play his Doctor the way he wanted. Is this the way he ever pictured himself playing the Doctor if he had an opportunity to do it? I wonder how comfortable he is with his era. Because classic Doctor Who and modern Doctor Who are very different beasts, let's be honest. I know the BBC likes to think of them all as one show, but classic Who and modern Who are very different animals. This is just a fact. I always wonder if Peter Capaldi would have liked his era to have played more like classic Who. Which again is a blanket statement because classic Who itself has several different eras with several different feels to them. Tom Baker has 3 eras alone. But if he would have preferred maybe something closer to one of those classic eras instead of what we got with his actual era, I've always wondered, and this is the question I would have to ask him if I could only ask him one question, is how satisfied were you with your era and how it turned out? And I always wondered if there are things when he was playing the Doctor he would have liked to have done differently. Different kind of stories he would have liked to have done. Because I know a lot of people who love Peter Capaldi. There's a lot of people on YouTube. Peter Capaldi is their favorite Doctor. I've had people down in the comments. Peter Capaldi is their favorite Doctor. And I have to ask at the end of the day, how satisfied are you with his era? I get the fact you love Capaldi, and that's great, that's cool, but how satisfied are you with his era? Because even Whittaker has a series that's more consistently good than any of Capaldi's. Now, does Whittaker have any stories that are as good as Flatline, or Mummy on the Orient Express, or Heaven Sent? No. But she has one series that's consistently pretty good. The most consistently good series since Series 5, and that is Series 12. You guys know I like Series 12, in spite of Whittaker. Is Whittaker ever as good an actor, or ever as good a Doctor as Peter Capaldi? No, never. She has moments where she shines, but she is never as good as Peter Capaldi, ever. But her era in Series 12, or I should say her stories in Series 12 are pretty consistently good. You have the Spyfall two-parter, which is really fun. Part 2 doesn't quite live up to Part 1, but it's fun, it's adventurous, there's a lot of neat stuff going on. Whittaker actually has some really good moments in it, like when she confronts the Steve Jobs guy and she comes right out with it. Instead of like trying to be subtle, she just smooth comes out with it. I love that scene. I love that. She's great in that. I love the James Bond feel to it, which is a nice harken back to the Pertwee era. I enjoyed that. Then you have Orphan 55, which is mostly bad. Now, to be fair, Orphan 55 has a few good things in it. I did a whole video about that called The Good, the Bad, and the Stupid, talking about Orphan 55. And but it has a handful of good things it does, plus a really nice callback to the second Doctor in it I love. But it's mostly pretty bad with some dumb in there. Then you have the Tesla episode. You guys know I really like the Tesla episode. I'm very fond of that one. The story is good, and then the guy playing Tesla just kills it. I like Fugitive of the Jadoon, and it even holds up on rewatch. Like, Fugitive of the Jadoon, for me, even knowing everything, the twist, it still holds up on rewatch. Then you have Praxis, which is there. It's really the best thing I can describe Praxeus. It's just, it's there. Praxeus is very forgettable. Praxeus makes Terminus look interesting. That's saying something. It's just there. That's the best way to describe it. It's there. But then you have Can You Hear Me, which I really like. It's got the Deus Ex Machina ending, which is a little silly, but I love the story. I love the tone. I love the performances. I love the atmosphere of it. It's a really good story. I love The Haunting of Villa Diodati. I've talked about that before. It's a really good setup. I enjoy it a lot. Ascension of the Cybermen is really good, even if it does get hurt a little bit by its part 2. But part 1, the setup for it is good, and then The Timeless Children is garbage. One of the worst episodes of Doctor Who ever made. So you have 3 bad episodes with 7 really good episodes. That's more consistently good than just about anything in the Capaldi era, where every season is a mixed bag. Series 8, mixed bag. Series 10, mixed bag. Series 9, mixed bag, mostly bad. There's a lot of bad in Series 9. So I really feel like the Doctor that is most ill-served by his era, most let down by his era, easily Peter Capaldi. What a phenomenal actor. What a good Doctor. Even if, again, it's not my type of Doctor, what a good and interesting Doctor. What a very different Doctor from what we had in Modern Who up to that point as well. A very different take on the Doctor. His era just did not live up to the quality of his Doctor and the quality of the actor playing that Doctor. Because he just doesn't have a series. At least Matt Smith has a series that's consistently good with Series 5 before everything kind of went downhill. Peter Capaldi can't say that. He can't say that. Every single one of his series is a mixed bag. So for me, the Doctor that is, as a character and as an actor, who's most let down by his era is the 12th Doctor. While he has some truly great stories, he has some truly bad stories. And there's so many of those. Again, I noticed when I was making the list for that video, which hopefully I'll get recorded soon, just how many of them and how far up the list, because I tend to do a lot of these lists from the ground up. So I start at the worst and work my way up to the number 1 spot. I think with his, I knew the top 2 or 3, the rest I had to work up to. Just how many of them on the bottom of that list are just outright garbage, terrible for me. I don't even like to go back and rewatch them. And he's really the only Doctor besides Whittaker where I can really say that. And so I felt like it was a clear and easy choice for me. So I want to know what you think of my thoughts and my opinions, and I want to know which Doctor do you think is most let down by his era, the Doctor and the actor playing him, whether they're the same or different. So comment down below and let me know. Other things to do. Don't forget to click the like button. That helps me out, and I certainly appreciate it. My goal in 2023, Doctor Who's anniversary year, is to reach 1,000 subscribers, and we are almost there. We are so close. I certainly appreciate everyone who's joined recently and everyone who's joined since day 1. It really, really means a lot to me. So don't forget to click that subscribe button and the like button. I also have a Patreon. If you would like to join that, Unknown289 just rejoined recently. I appreciate that. And I'm in the double digits for patrons for the first time, and I am super excited about that. That's been a goal of mine for a while as well. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. It also means quite a bit to me. I have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review, Doctor Who or otherwise. I tend to love a lot of British television. I also have a P.O. box. That's the one I just talked about, the P.O. box. I also have a link to my Amazon wish list down there as well. So don't forget to check that out. And most importantly, thank you for watching.